Hola, hola, hola a todos, a todas. Espero que me puedan escuchar y me puedan ver súper bien. Voy a pedir ahorita, esto es un pequeño ritual que tenemos en colectivo, solamente para estar seguros y seguras que todo funciona súper bien, que todos me pongan un puntito en el chat, si me pueden ver y me pueden escuchar, excelente. Espero ver 300 puntitos en el chat, si no me va a dar preocupación. Buenísimo. Bueno, hola a todos y todas. Yo soy Cristina, soy la CEO de Colectivo 23. Estoy demasiado contenta de estar acá con todos ustedes. De hecho, espero que esta noche lo disfruten muchísimo. De hecho, yo lo voy a disfrutar mucho con ustedes. Y yo sé que hay un montón de personas acá nuevas. De hecho, ahorita les voy a pedir más puntitos en el chat. Así que quería que me pongan en el chat si es la primera vez que se suman a un evento, un curso, algo de Colectivo 23, porque sé que había como un 80% de personas que eran nuevo para nosotros, me encanta. Me encanta también ver tantos nombres y tantas personas también repetidas. Siempre me hace feliz cuando puedo identificar pasajeros o pasajeras de colectivo. Primera vez me encanta ver un montón de personas que están ahí por primera vez. De hecho, vayan poniendo en el chat si han sido pasajero o pasajera para que se puedan ir identificando. Newbie, dice Martín, buenísimo. Bueno, igual les voy a contar un poquito sobre colectivo, dado que hay tantas personas activas en el chat, que es la primera vez que se están sumando. Nosotros en Colectivo 23 somos una escuela justamente para profesionales. Nosotros estamos formando justamente esta generación de talento digital en América Latina. Como saben, los puestos y los roles digitales son los más demandados a nivel mundial y hay una brecha muy grande en toda Latinoamérica y también en todo el mundo, y nosotros a través de cursos los ayudamos a ustedes, a pasajeros, pasajeras, para que justamente puedan tener las habilidades más demandadas y pueden, de la manera que nosotros le decimos, poner un chaleco antibalas a sus carreras. Algunas cosas sobre colectivo es que todos nuestros cursos tienen algo que llamamos el hashtag colectivo way. Algunas cosas que nos hacen un poco distintos es que aquí no dejamos tarea obligatoria. Sabemos que los profesionales hoy en día tienen mucho que hacer y poco tiempo, y además creemos mucho en el aprendizaje colaborativo. Así que nosotros hacemos todo en las sesiones en vivo para que puedan realmente conocer a los pasajeros y pasajeras en sus promociones. Lo otro es que las personas que dirigen los cursos son profesionales que realmente enseñan lo que ejercen en el día a día. De hecho, tenemos 56 profesionales top de toda Latinoamérica que están actualmente enseñando en colectivo, y esto es una promesa hacia ustedes: aplican lo aprendido desde el primer día. Nosotros creemos mucho en la aplicabilidad, en las horas de vuelo, y que puedan realmente llevar a cabo las herramientas y las cosas que se van aprendiendo en los cursos. Pasajera por dos, dice Jessica, me encanta. Somos una empresa que realmente se mueve por el impacto y el propósito. Algunas cosas que nos enorgullece mucho es que en el 2021 tuvimos más de 15.000 personas de toda Latinoamérica que se sumaron a nuestras distintas clases gratuitas. No solamente eso, tenemos un NPS promedio más de 70%, que es bastante alto, y realmente hacemos un esfuerzo de los que son pasajeros y pasajeras de hacer que la experiencia de aprendizaje sea la mejor posible para ustedes. Y por último, un dato curioso que creo que pocos lo saben, incluso los que han pasado tiempo con nosotros, es que el 50% de los pasajeros y pasajeras que pasan por nuestros cursos cambian de trabajo en los 3 meses posteriores a terminar el curso. Solamente acá me voy a detener, porque para quienes son nuevos van a escuchar mucho esta palabra pasajero o pasajera, y es porque a los alumnos, nosotros le llamamos pasajeros y pasajeras, porque son quienes se suben al colectivo, al bus, y llevan su viaje de aprendizaje con nosotros. Ahora, solamente para estar todos alineados de qué va a suceder esta noche, hay 4 partes de esta hermosa noche. Lo primero es que vamos a ver algunas cosas logísticas. Puede sonar un poquito aburrido, pero es muy importante para que realmente puedan aprovechar este espacio a lo máximo, que puedan escuchar y puedan ver la mejor manera de aprovechar esta charla y una actividad que vamos a hacer. De ahí vamos a entrar de frente a un gran conversatorio con Sandy Speaker, Spiker. Ahí vamos a conversar de un montón de cosas muy interesantes sobre Human Centered Design y por qué el usuario es tan importante. Ya hacia el cierre de la noche vamos a hacer una actividad en conjunto y en vivo. Estoy segura que va a funcionar muy bien, como siempre colectivo, haciendo cosas distintas en estos espacios, así que estoy segura que lo van a apretar. Y por último, tenemos un lanzamiento sorpresa al final de la noche, que estoy segura que les va a emocionar a todos ustedes, igual que nos emociona a nosotros acá en colectivo. Algunas pequeñas reglas de juego. nos encanta verte. Ahí vi a Noelia prendiendo y apagando su cámara. No se preocupen por prender o no prender las cámaras. Los que son parte de colectivo saben que cuando prenden cámaras los podemos ver, podemos interactuar. Así que si quieren prender cámara, están súper bienvenidos y bienvenidas a hacerlo. Lo otro es usen el chat. Así como les puse, pongan el puntito, comenten, hablen, etcétera. Usen el chat a lo máximo. Hay una razón por la cual usamos este formato y no un formato webinar. Es porque creo que realmente podemos compartir un espacio en conjunto. Y lo último es disfruten el espacio a lo máximo, ¿ya? Si ya están acá conectados, si ya se han dado el espacio, realmente disfruten la charla, disfruten la conversación, hay una actividad, participen, y nunca sabes, por ahí puedes hacer networking y puedes conocer a algunas personas muy interesantes de toda Latinoamérica, así que nada, les invito a realmente estar presentes en este momento. Ahora, la logística dura. Como saben, o como deben ya saber, buena parte de esta noche va a estar en inglés. Sin embargo, no se preocupen porque vamos a tener traducción en vivo. De hecho, en un ratito ya voy a pasar a inglés y vamos a hacer la prueba para asegurarnos que todos y todas ustedes que quieren escuchar esta charla en castellano lo van a poder hacer sin ningún problema. Lo único que tienen que hacer en su Zoom, hay un icono que dice interpretación o en inglés interpretation, dependiendo de la versión de Zoom que tienen. Hay un equipo entero de colectivo detrás que si es que tienen algún problema simplemente escriben por el chat y te van a ayudar. Y cuando hacen clic ahí, tienen que simplemente elegir la traducción en vivo. Ahorita lo vamos a probar. La segunda opción que existe, de hecho, son subtítulos. Si sabes inglés, pero no te sientes tan cómodo o cómoda, pero quieres darle una prueba, de hecho, los subtítulos les puede ayudar para escuchar la charla en el formato original. Lo mismo, simplemente van el botón de interpretación y tienen que elegir subtítulos en inglés. Lamentablemente, Zoom todavía no tiene subtítulos en castellano en automático. Lo tercero, como pueden ver, Ale, que está justamente a mi lado, nos está acompañando esta noche. Hola Ale, ¿cómo estás? Ale nos está haciendo la traducción de señas en vivo y algo que sí les recomiendo para que realmente puedan aprovechar este espacio es que eligen, lo que justamente lo ven acá en la imagen, es que pueden elegir la opción de speaker view o de hablante, nuevamente dependiendo si es que quieren la opción, si tienen, perdón, la opción de inglés o la opción de castellano. Así que con eso ya deberíamos estar. Así que antes de arrancar la noche, vamos a hacer la prueba en inglés. Ahí Daniela, nuestra intérprete, nos va a estar ayudando y voy a en breves empezar a hablar en inglés. So we're going to begin the trial. Everyone who actually is signing on from different parts of the world who has no idea what I've been saying so far, just FYI, I was giving a quick introduction on what Colectivo is, how Colectivo works. We're going to go ahead and see how the translation is working. I believe it's starting to work or not yet. I'm going to ask if people can put a dot in the chat when it begins to work. Yes? Okay, so we are having the live translation working. I want to see a few more dots just to make sure that we're doing okay. And everyone who's joining us from other parts of the world, it's great to know that you guys are here. And it is simply part of the process. Okay, here we are, we're back again. Sorry about that. We're just gonna try again the translation, and I think now we should be okay. I'm gonna ask again if you guys can put a full stop in the chat, if you guys can hear us. No, you're saying, Ale, we can't. I don't know if someone in Colectivo can help me with what's going on with the translation, just to make sure that we're okay. You can see this English subtitles perfect. Okay, I'm being told that the translation is starting to work, and so we're okay. Now I want to see a lot of dots in the chat. Yes? Lots of dots, making sure that we're okay. Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for the patience. Sometimes this happens in live events, but it is part of the wonderful wonderful world of live events, and anything can happen, even when we do a lot of run-throughs previously. Okay, so is everyone ready to begin this evening? I'm going to ask Sandy if you can go ahead and start turning on your camera so that you can be pinned as our co-speaker. Hi, Sandy. How are you? Good evening.
Hi, everyone.
How are you? Just to give a quick introduction of why we are here. We are here this evening to talk about human-centered design. This is one of my favorite topics, and it's actually a concept that I learned of only in 2018. And I've been very passionate about how this can really shape strategy for many companies, big or small. And the topic of our event today is the user, your new CEO. And I'm very excited to be here with Sandy to talk about this. Very quickly, to give an amazing introduction of our speaker, Sandy is CEO of Ideo. Ideo is the most prolific design thinking company in the world. She is leading the charge to drive impact through human-centered design across industries. And also Ideo is present globally with offices in Tokyo, Shanghai, London, Munich, and all across the US. That's actually very impressive, Sandy. How many people are working currently in Ideo?
We have about 600 people.
Wow, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. So Sandy, thank you so much for being here this evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's really great to be here and see everyone.
Are you currently in California time, or where are you?
Well, I'm in California. Am I in California time? I guess so.
well, currently you're in Latin American time, so yeah. The southern hemisphere. Okay, well, it's great to see you this evening. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can go ahead and just be ourselves, having a chat. I'm extremely excited to talk to you tonight. I have been waiting for this for many, many months. I remember the first time we spoke and we talked about education and just all the opportunities that there are and how human-centered design really drives change through companies, and to see this sort of take place, it's very exciting. I wanted to go ahead and start, Sandy, by asking you to introduce yourself. I'd love you to tell us a little bit about your trajectory in Ideo, how you came to be CEO of Ideo, and just to tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll go ahead and go through some of the questions.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for the invitation to be here. I am excited to connect with you all, and I love to be in environments that are where people are engaged to learn. So I feel the energy already, and I'm super excited about that. Yeah, I became CEO of Ideo about 2.5 years ago. Of course, in pandemic time, it feels like a decade, but I've been at Ideo quite a long time. I've been at Ideo since 2004. And I mean, it just might be fun to share with you that I actually started at Ideo as an intern in 2004. And maybe kind of in the big picture, I tend to think of myself as both a designer and a teacher. And I have had many roles in my career where I was either a designer or a teacher, but I also think of those orientations to the world as part of my spiritual nature. So I started my career in graphic design. Any graphic designers in the room? I can't see everybody, but
we can put up maybe a dot in the chat if you're a graphic. Yeah, if you're a graphic designer. I think there are quite a few.
Right.
There are.
Enthusiasm for it. Well, I started as a graphic designer, and while I was working as a graphic designer doing brand identity systems and environmental graphic systems and interactive design systems, I also was teaching design to 10-year-olds. And so you'll see I kind of weave a lot of both designing and teaching at the same time. And then I went and taught at a university. And while I was teaching, I really realized how much I cared about education. And I decided that I had been working for about 10 years. I loved what I was doing. I loved teaching. And then something in me realized that as a designer, that there was something I could do to weave both that passion for education and my skill set as a designer together. And so I decided to take a year off and study education. So I went to grad school to get a 1-year degree in education. And as part of that degree program, we had to have an internship. And I was like, I don't want to work. I'm here to be in school. And so I was like, let me get the easiest internship possible. And Ideo was across the street from where I was studying. And I was able to line up an internship there. And I thought it would be like, I'm at a design firm. I'm just going to kind of phone it in with the internship. I'm going to learn at school. And of course, I loved it and stayed and have had many different stages of my career at Ideo. And so when I started at Ideo, I started in a group that at the time was called Transformation by Design. And we were helping companies deal with challenges of change, wondering how they could use design to help evolve their own ability to innovate. And eventually I was like, in education, there's so many challenges and they need design. And so I built our education practice, which I led for about 10 years before I took on this role as CEO.
Wow. So education has always been very close to your trajectory and your heart, I imagine. I saw some people in the chat were also putting that they enjoy teaching. And I think there are a lot of people here who have either taught or I think we all have a teacher or a professor that at some point really changed the way we see things and look at the world. So I think it's always a really beautiful career, actually. Mm-hmm. So Sandy, we have a ritual in Colectivo. For those of you who have not been in Colectivo before, this is something that we always share. I actually haven't shared mine. I will, I promise. But we always ask for people to share a fun fact about themselves, something that people don't normally know. So I don't know if you want to share a fun fact with everyone. It's a good way to kind of break the ice. And if people want to put their fun facts in the chat so that it's less daunting for us being here, it would be great to hear or see some of your fun facts as well. So tell us something fun, Sandy, about yourself.
Well, you asked if I was in California time, which was very astute of you to ask, because actually, I am sitting in California, but I just a few days ago flew back from being in India. So my time presence is really off. But maybe the fun fact there is that was my 24th visit to India. I really love it there. It's where I go to relax, and I haven't been able to go since the pandemic. So it was really, really wonderful to be there and connect with a place that I love in a time that is complicated. And so to understand what India is going through. But yeah, the fun fact in that is been to India 24 times.
Wow. When was the first time you went?
Maybe 2007 or 9. I can't remember, but something like 13, 14 years ago.
Wow. So you've gone many times in a year.
Okay. Many times for like vacation or for work. I helped open, we had an Ideo office there for a while that I helped launch. So I first went for work and really fell in love with it. And had to keep going back because it challenged me really fundamentally of the way I saw the world. And I felt like it was a huge opportunity to learn and grow, is to really understand a culture that was so different from mine. So super.
That's completely true. That's completely true. Well, I have to share my fun fact, which I forgot to in the morning. So I actually have 2 dogs, 2 cats, and live in an apartment. A lot of people think that that's kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy. But they're my babies, and those who know me know that my Instagram and all my social media are my pets. I'm very millennial on my end. I've never been to India, but I would love to go. So thank you for sharing that, Sandy.
If you do go, let me help plan your trip.
I will. I'll definitely let you know. Okay, so let's just make sure that all of us in the audience kind of know the terminology and the things that we're talking about. Sandy, could you go ahead and just give us like an overview of exactly what Ideo does and how that ties into human-centered design and design thinking before we go into and talk a little bit more on why it's so important?
Sure. Well, you mentioned it at the very beginning. Ideo is a design company. So the way I think of our role in the world is that we exist to hold the space for creativity and to use that creativity to help organizations innovate to make the world better for people. And that's the end goal for everything, right? Is that we're designing a world that we all want to live in and be a part of. And, one of the reasons I think I really love Ideo so much is that its spiritual nature is a lot like mine. We're an organization of designers, but also really love helping people kind of find their creative confidence, build their creative capabilities, and know that their creativity really matters. And we need it in shaping the way that we experience our world.
Completely. That's a beautiful, there's a beautiful purpose and a beautiful vision for a company, actually. And could you tell us a little bit how human-centered design ties into that? And just, I don't know if there are probably a lot of people in the chat who don't necessarily know what human-centered design is. So if we can just go ahead and make sure that we're all on the same page.
It is a lot of terms and
a lot of jargon.
Think about it you know, human-centered design is basically recognizing that people and their needs and their motivations are core to our responsibility as designers. If we're trying to help make a better world, then we need to do it by understanding what people really want and need and desire. And there's a million different ways to do that, to understand that. It's endlessly expansive. I had a conversation recently with a woman named Jane Fulton Surrey, who was a leader at Ideo for a really long time. And she was one of the 40 years ago kind of pioneers of human-centered design. And I asked her, what was it like at the beginning? And she's like, well, it was a bunch of, companies were designing things like from their desks, like people were sitting at their desk and they were like making stuff. And she said, I remember that someone came to me and said, well, we've been making this machine and people are cutting their fingers off when they use it. Can you fix this? And she's like, not only can I fix this, but maybe before we design this machine, we should think about what people's hands are like. So we designed the machine to not cut off people's fingers, right? So I think the idea here is to understand what is happening for people and use that as inspiration and input for how we design, and also potentially design with people so that they can shape their worlds.
100%. It's amazing how, and I think it happens in all companies, how sometimes you go straight to the idea and you forget to also go to the person, right? And to the human part of the problem, and ask and listen and just, and sometimes we end up launching really big things and we haven't really even talked to people and seen if is this what you want? Is this what you need?
And we've all had experiences where we're so convinced that we would love something, right? And we end up kind of designing for ourselves. But when you take a human-centered orientation, you get really curious about actually, what do people experience that's different than me, right? That I'm not designing for myself, I'm actually designing for everybody else. And so that is core to the orientation of being human-centered in your design process. I want to build on this a little bit because then there's design thinking, and it's are they the same thing? Are they different? And this is what's fun to be in an education environment and a learning environment talking, is we can get a little nerdy here with some of these definitions. To me, the difference between human-centered design, which is a process, and design thinking is saying, hey, the way that designers orient in the world is unique, just like the way scientists orient in the world or mathematicians orient in the world. And all of us probably in school learned scientific thinking. Do you remember that? You remember learning what it means to think like a scientist, right? And then you probably also learned the scientific method, where you were told you start with a hypothesis, then you do an experiment, and then you learn from that experiment and you iterate on your hypothesis. That's the core method of scientific thinking. So if you translate that to design thinking, designers have a certain orientation to the world. They're always asking, how can this be better? And through that, they have methods. They have methods that they use, which one of the all-encompassing methods is human-centered design.
That's actually an amazing way of describing it. Thank you, Sandy. I think that many times we hear a lot of jargon or buzzwords, and sometimes we use them inclusive, interchangeably. And I think that's an amazing way of sort of understanding the difference.
And one more thing I just want to build on.
Go ahead.
Just building on myself here.
No, I love it. I love it.
The thing that I love in that science metaphor also is, if you might have learned, I learned the scientific method in 4th grade, right? And yet there's science in every year after that. There was, high school science and college science and PhD level science. And There's chemistry and physics and biology. It's huge. And all of it is united at the core with the ideas of scientific thinking and the scientific method. So design is similar. There are so many different realms of design, so many different problems that we're working on. And it's a pretty new field in a way. And so we're all kind of learning about how it's advancing together.
I love this. And hopefully we'll see it more in sort of school curriculums as well, because I think fostering that sort of more creative side of children and also of adults is extremely necessary. So I have to ask you this question, Sandy, because I think today we have kind of a split audience. We have a lot of people who are more well-versed in human-centered design. I think we have probably a lot of designers as well. Maybe if someone wants to put a full stop in the chat just to know who are the designers, service designers, people who are already in this world. I'm sure we'll see lots of full stops in the chat. But there we go. See, we have Diego, Francesca, Laura. And for those who didn't know about human-centered design and design thinking and sort of this way of looking at the world through designers' eyes, I hope that now you guys have a better base. But what's true is that human-centered design has been around for a really long time. And one of the things that I find that's actually amazing is that it still is so relevant even today. And I think that's one of the main things I wanted to talk to you about is how is it possible after so many years, we keep going back to this user-centeredness, this human-centeredness. And also, how do you think that the pandemic kind of impacted that? If it helped or made us maybe go a little bit further away, or sort of what have you seen since the pandemic started?
Oh my gosh, that's such a big question, and so important for us to be reflecting on. So just with the first half of the question about design thinking has been, kind of part of our consciousness for 40 years plus, and I think that because we live in a social environment and we are all curious and interested in each other, there's actually endless ways to explore that. And I know a lot of people learn about design thinking through a book or through like a brief course, and they're kind of like, oh, I get it, but there is like endless expansion and endless possibilities and endless things to learn, just like with the metaphor I talked about with science. But to your question about the pandemic and how it's changed, I feel like this is something so great for us to be talking about, because design is more relevant than ever right now. And yet it's a really challenging time to be designing because there's so much uncertainty in the world. And all of this uncertainty and this kind of this ambiguity and these shifting norms, and they're changing what our experience of the world is without us really being involved in that, right? And so as a result, I think people have really changed. And on the beautiful side of this, we're actually all experiencing something really profound together. All around the world, billions of people are looking at the same type of information. They're asking similar questions. They're experiencing similar things. And we don't even know yet how much this is changing us as people or as a society. But I think some of the biggest patterns that seem to be very consistent now is that we're all really evaluating our relationships, and those relationships with work, our relationships with companies and brands and products, our relationships with society, our relationships with the planet. We're all kind of asking questions about who we are in this world and what we want our experience to be. And these are really big questions. Climate change, social justice, redesigning the way we structure organizations. These are huge questions. And this creates a new opportunity for designers. We get to think about questions at a really giant scale. Because all of us need to be working on these questions to get to new answers. And that means we have to think differently. It means we have to learn. It means we have to be curious about what each other are experiencing. It means we have to actually have subject matter expertise to really understand how to innovate in areas that will actually make progress and the kinds of things we want to be different. And also it means we have to learn and design at an entirely different scale, because these questions are so massive. So this gives us a great opportunity as designers to think even bigger, to understand even more, to build new methods, to be not just kind of like curious about people in one moment and then going off and designing in a corner, but like being in flow with people and communities all of the time, connecting people and organizations, connecting organizations with each other, helping people design their own contexts or their own communities. There's so many ways that as a designer, we can be in design together. At Ideo, we've been talking about there's like designing for people, there's designing with people, there's designing by people where we can help others design themselves, there's designing between organizations. There's so many different ways that we need to be thinking about new possibilities and be creating new possibilities together. So as my view on what this pandemic is doing to us is it's really expanding how we're all now involved with what the experience we'd like to have in society is. And that means that we all need to be designing responsibly with each other.
That's amazing. As I was listening to you, I was thinking it's almost like this pandemic has opened up the opportunity to redesign almost everything, right? Because these large questions that you're mentioning are questions that really go to the core of almost philosophical questions that we can have. Yes. And that's really going to open the doors to rethink how we live, how we consume, how we interact, everything. I can imagine for designers, it's like blank slate and really exciting.
And it can be really exciting and it can be really daunting, right? Because while we can imagine, it's actually very hard to understand how to take action, how to move systems, right? Yeah. And so that's where part of being a designer isn't just the ability to imagine, which by the way is an incredible skill and essential, but it's also the ability to understand what is in front of us, what are, how do we make progress? How do we measure that progress? And how do we design that in to the ways that we're working so that we're in a way kind of like endlessly designing?
Definitely. So Sandy, I have a question that I think is very relevant for a lot of people here in this space, in this Zoom. Actually, I had to mention that one of the people who's connected, he told us that he's an economist and he wants to design, he works in microfinance and he actually wants to design financial products for the poor. And so I think it's amazing. I'm sure there are a lot of people here who have different projects or different ways that they want to apply design to what they're doing. And sort of tying into this, I think that the world is changing so quickly. Skills are changing so quickly. It's one of the reasons why Colectivo 23 actually exists. In your perspective, what are those skills? What are those abilities that are most important for professionals today? And what are those like non-negotiables? And how can people go about obtaining them?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you almost said it in the question, like the world keeps evolving and we need to keep learning. So first of all, in this world of uncertainty, in this world of scale where we have so much visibility into what other people are experiencing and we have so much coming at us all the time, we need to keep learning and we need to keep evolving. And it's easy to say that, but it's actually hard. I've said the word learning a lot tonight, but actually learning is really it's a skill, and it is a difficult journey that we go on because it's a lot more comfortable to know things. So being a constant learner means we have to move between knowing something and not knowing something. We have to be comfortable with the discomfort that gets caused when we don't know something. We have to enjoy that, right? So there's a skill right now of saying like, I'm really going to enjoy that I don't know, because that I don't know is going to help me discover something. It's going to help me see the world anew, and it's going to help me be inspired and understand more deeply. So I think that number one skill, learning. It's probably also pretty obvious that I'm going to say creativity, but I want to push on creativity a little bit for a minute here, because we talk about creativity, and we often don't talk about things like intuition and imagination, which are really foundational to us being able to create. And so I feel one of the things the pandemic has done to us, because there's so much uncertainty, because things shift so often, it's actually very hard to see past this moment. And we're living in a lot of fear, a lot of scarcity, a lot of pain. And those are the very conditions that shut down our imagination. So there's a really important skill that all of us have to learn right now, which is to preserve the space for imagination. How do we, despite all that's happening, still leave room to have vision, to see things that differently, to see that they can be different? Because that's what all of the people around us need for us to be able to do, and they need us to be able to help them do that. So I'd say there's a bunch of words in there: creativity, imagination, confidence in our creativity, holding the space for imagination, the courage to do that in a time where we're facing so many different things, the ability to see what's possible, and bringing the energy for creativity to be possible together.
I love it. And I really resonate with being okay with that discomfort, right? Because everything that you just mentioned, we're almost trained as adults not to really develop, right? We're many times like very into the day-to-day, and we're into getting the results, and we forget that creative side. We forget that learning side. We say, oh, I'll do that later. I'll figure that out later. Or we want to control everything, right? And I think the past 2 years have taught us that we control nothing, and that I think change is constant. Sandy, I'm going to stop you there. We're going to continue talking in a little bit, but on the subject of creativity and on the subject of learning, we do have an activity that I hope you will enjoy, and everyone who is connected here with us will enjoy as well. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this quick chat that we had. And true to the colectivo way of doing things, we're going to go from the talk to action. So I hope you guys all have the chat open, because the colectivo team right now is going to go crazy behind the cameras. You won't see them, but they'll be taking a lot of notes. And we're going to go ahead and put our creativity and our imagination to the test together as 450 people who are in the Zoom, and see what comes out. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a brainstorming exercise. Sandy, I'm just going to switch to Spanish for a little bit. I'll be switching back to English to sort of give you the updates of what we're going on, but I will be switching to Spanish so that the instructions are super clear and that we have a lot of fun with this brainstorming. Entonces, para todos los que están ahorita conectados y conectadas, vamos a hacer esta pequeña actividad. Como saben, el brainstorming, estoy segura que muchos y muchas de ustedes han hecho algún tipo de brainstorming antes, pero también estoy muy segura, hoy es martes, creo, de la noche, que hace tiempo que no se han dado un espacio como realmente para botar ideas y ver cómo esas ideas pueden convergir o divergir de otras personas. Este es un espacio donde hay muchas personas de distintos países, distintas industrias, entonces creo que es un lugar donde va a ser muy rico ver cómo la forma que nosotros pensamos puede cambiar tanto. Entonces, básicamente vamos a hacer un ejercicio, vamos a hacer una lluvia de ideas y vamos a todos trabajar sobre un mismo cómo podríamos o un mismo pregunta que tenemos en conjunto, ¿ya? Las reglas o las instrucciones son bastante claras, solo tienen que abrir el chat y van a responder en el chat con todas las ideas que vienen en la mente, ¿ya? Y acá quiero que realmente abracen su niño anterior o su niña anterior o su niña anterior que pensaba que el mundo era todo posible y que no habían límites y podías volar de chiquito o chiquita, y realmente voten las ideas más locas que puedan tener y vamos a responder cómo podríamos mejorar la experiencia de trabajo remoto en nuestras organizaciones, porque estoy 100% segura que cada uno de ustedes ha en algún momento, si no es ahorita, sufrido que el trabajo remoto es muy difícil y que ha sido todo un tema tener que adaptarnos a esta forma de trabajar. Van a votar las ideas por chat. Vamos a tener más o menos 3 minutos, probablemente un poquito menos porque estamos fuera de tiempo, ya me dijo mi equipo, sorry chicos, chicas, y vamos a hacer esto más rápido de lo que teníamos pensado. Y van a ver cómo en una plantilla que luego les vamos a pasar por correo para que sea para ustedes, para que luego pueden jugar esta semana con otras personas en sus equipos o en sus emprendimientos, lo van a poder utilizar para justamente responder preguntas que tienen sobre sus productos, servicios o problemas que tienen sus usuarios. Así que este es el primer paso para hacer una sesión de brainstorming. Entonces, lo que ya voy a pedir, y ahorita voy a regresar a inglés, porque de hecho le dejé tarea a Sandy para que nos dé algunas ideas ella misma. Voy a ir pidiendo que en el chat, veo solamente 5 comentarios, espero que hayan 453 comentarios en breves, vayan votando todas las ideas que ustedes tienen sobre esta problemática, ¿no? ¿Cómo podríamos mejorar la experiencia de trabajo remoto en nuestras organizaciones? So Sandy, I just went ahead and I told everyone the tips on brainstorming. We were kind of, well, I was discussing because no one was discussing with me, but I was discussing how this is a great and very easy activity to kind of get our creative juices flowing. And really there are no rules, that all ideas are welcome. I did say that I hope to see 455 chats because everyone should have an idea, and that really remote work has been a pain for a lot of us, right? I know there are some companies that have gone back to hybrid. There are many companies that are 100% still 100% remote, and definitely it has been a challenge. So I told them that I had left you a teeny tiny homework, which is to tell us while people are throwing out their ideas, what things have been working in Ideo and remote working, what ideas you guys have had and what that you guys have tried in order to really better the experience of Ideoers, I think you call yourselves Ideoers, so that remote work is just better in general.
Yeah. Well, I can share one story that comes to mind that is, I think was really a special moment in our Tokyo office. They, were really missing each other. And they normally have an annual offsite where they go away together. And really, I talk about like strategy for the year ahead and bond, and they make stuff together. And they were pretty sad that they couldn't do that because of all the rules of this pandemic. And so they decided to actually create a shared experience, but do it in a distributed way. So they turned the office space into an art gallery, and different designers created art installations that were basically messages to each other. And so people went in and they installed their piece, and then someone else came in and installed their piece, and then people would sign up to come visit the office after all of them were installed, and they would have an individual experience of all the communications that people shared about what they were feeling, what they were seeing, what they were wishing for. And so they had this kind of shared experience, but not together physically. I think it's a beautiful example of some of the ways we can use the spaces available to us, but play with time and play with proximity.
And also play with people's creative side, right? Because I imagine that it must be also therapeutic to do these art installations. And was this organic? Like, did someone in the team say, hey, let's do this? Or how did this idea come about?
Yeah, I think they were brainstorming, like, what can they do because they can't have the offsite? And that idea came up, and there was a whole like kind of logistic. So the other thing I find with remote learning is that remote working, I guess it's remote learning too.
Remote learning as well, yeah.
With remote working is the logistics are really high to make great experiences. You really have to think about how all things come together and how to pace people and time. And so they had, done a lot of planning about who could be in the space when and how. And actually, they did a beautiful job documenting it too. They made a digital version of it also, so the rest of us could actually walk through it and experience it and kind of zoom in to different parts. They laid out the physical space in a like virtual world, and you could walk through it and see what people had installed through the photos of it. So I find with remote work that there's a lot of world building that we're doing also. So if we're thinking about collaborating, especially with some of our client partners and people across, large organizations, sometimes these Zoom setups, like it doesn't really get you there to creativity that you need. And so building whole like worlds in Miro boards where people can navigate different places, where meetings get kicked off, where you kind of set up agreements about the way this world works and how we're going to be in our time together in this world. It seems like some of that really helps us get out of our living rooms or dining rooms or home offices and into this shared space to create together.
Definitely. And I think one of the things, they're changing the screen now, actually talking about mural or Miro boards kind of sounds like it was on purpose right there, Sandy. It wasn't me, I promise. But no, definitely. I think there's so many technological platforms that really allow you to kind of try different ways of remote work. I think murals and Miros help a lot. Also because you sort of playing with Post-its and sharing things and then moving them around is quite powerful. And then having them stay there, I think, is even more powerful in Colectivo. And I'll go ahead and explain this in a second. But in Colectivo, we have our hopes and fears. I thought it cut off there. And sometimes I go back to that and I go back to see what were the hopes and the fears of the team at that moment, at that time. But anyway, so as we were talking, Sandy, I had an entire team behind us doing a lot of work on this mural board. This mural board we will be sending to everyone after this session, because really it's a gift for you guys. It will be in a blank slate so that you guys can practice brainstorming with your teams in a very simple way. This is 100% a free technological platform that's quite potent. So I just wanted to share some of the ideas that came out. I don't know if Ando, if you can zoom in just a little bit more. I can see metaverse there. It kind of sounded like what you were saying, Sandy, that they created the virtual version of the art installation so that you guys could interact and also see no matter what part of the office of Ideo you are in. I saw in the chat a lot of people talked about doing active pauses. And I saw the word burnout actually run through many times. And I think those active pauses have a lot to do with the burnout. But something I want to really highlight here, and this is actually for everyone who's in the Zoom who's not done this type of brainstorming before. Anto, can you zoom out just a little bit? What the team has done here is, if you can see, we've started putting all the different ideas that have been popping up in the chat. And it's amazing to see how there are ideas that are so different. Like we can go from the metaverse and we can go to something so simple as like an active pause. And what the team has done as well, if we can now go down, is that we've started to find patterns. And this is, I think, the beauty of brainstorming in a group, because we start seeing where we diverge and where we converge. So a lot of things that were repeated were the active pauses, rituals. I think we all look for rituals and things that can repeat themselves. Also, I think this has to do with maybe some of the burnout is respecting our working hours, there where it says respetar horarios, and also doing activities that are outside the computer. There's a company that I loved that I saw the other day. They went to walk in a park together, all with their double masks and everything. And then they just went out and they all wore the same t-shirt and they went for a walk as a team. So I think that one of the things that really are like potent here is that when we do brainstorming, we're going to start seeing how people have ideas that are different, that are similar. And yeah, we did a brainstorming with 460 participants. So thank you, Sandy, for jumping on that when I told you an hour ago that this was going to happen. And anyway, thank you to everyone who also participated. I hope that this brainstorming was of use more than the things that came out. I think it's really nice to remember to use that part of our brain to throw ideas out there and to see how our ideas can be similar and different to other people. And then from those ideas, how we can get ideas that we want to prototype, we want to try, etc. I love how virtual reality is popping up so much. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to continue now. We're almost done. I'm going to skip the reflection part because if not, my team will tell me that I'm really off time. But Sandy, as you know, as we're coming towards the end of the evening, we do have an announcement that we wanted to give to the team. So, or not the team, the Zoom. So do you think I should go ahead and share the announcement?
Definitely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that answer. I'm going to go ahead and share a small video that we prepared for all of you, and I hope you enjoy it.
¿Cuál es tu siguiente destino?
¿Hacia dónde va tu profesión?
Tema complejo, ¿no?
Pues hoy te invitamos a un viaje que impulsará tu carrera.
Y el primer paso es desafiar tu futuro.
Cuestionarlo, enfrentarlo, retarlo y rediseñarlo.
Tu talento es más grande que solo un cargo.
Y tenemos al compañero de viajes perfecto.
Lanzamos, en colaboración con Ideo, una de las consultoras de innovación más importantes del mundo, nuestra nueva ruta de Digital Product Design.
Únete a este viaje y aprende con los mejores.
Desafiemos el futuro en colectivo.
It's amazing, Sandy, almost 9 months later to see that video come to life. It's been an amazing journey with you guys, and
¿Cuál es tu siguiente?
And I'm thrilled to announce this collaboration with Ideo. I think there is no better partner for this course, and we're very excited. And I'm going to explain in the next slides exactly what we're doing together and how Ideo and Colectivo 23 are kind of hopping on this human-centeredness journey to really create a course that is really focused on the learner and focused on the outcomes. Our course is called Digital Product Design. It's in collaboration with Ideo. It begins the end of February, and I was told to make this small announcement. It's 100% in Spanish, even though this event has been in English. We will have some components that are also in English, but as you saw today, technology allows you to have translation live all the time, and it's an amazing opportunity to meet people all around the world. I saw Nathan there was connected, and I think Charles was connected as well. So if you guys can just turn on your camera and wave, it'd be great for people to see you guys. But there'll be a lot of people from all over the world that you guys will be able to interact with, because in Colectivo, we really believe in the human part of the interaction in education. And I think it's one of our biggest differentials as an education platform. So very quickly, digital product designers, what are they? I know there are a lot of questions. I promise there will be a lot more information about this course in detail, but I did want to share one thing. Just in January, and this is really interesting, there are almost 4,000 listings in LinkedIn only in Latin America looking for product designers. This is one of the roles that is starting to develop, especially in Latin America. It's a new role in lots of organizations. And it's also a great role for people who want to start to dip their toes in what human-centered design is, because everything really starts from the conceptualization and the design of a really great product or service, and that product or service is really focused on the needs of the user. So we did very exhaustive work here, making sure that this course really follows the core values mentioned. Of course, this course will be following the Colectivo way. As I mentioned at the beginning, for all of you who have not been passengers or who have been passengers in the past, Colectivo way is very dynamic. We learn, we reflect, we share, and we do. We resolve problems, we work on our communication, we work as a team. This is definitely not a course where you just sit back and relax and watch. It's a course where you really get your hands dirty and you work with people, you meet people, and you will be creating a product or a service, a digital product or service. So it is something that I think, as Sandy said before, will take you out of your comfort zone, quite definitely. And one of the most amazing parts of any courses, really, of Colectivo 23 is that they are led by real professionals. So in this course in particular, we will have a judging panel and also inspiration shots of amazing talent from Ideo. We have current Ideoers and past Ideoers. I know some of you have connected today. I don't know if you can put on your cameras, wave so people can see you. I've had the amazing pleasure of meeting several of these people, Charles, Nathan, Momo. It's been an amazing really learning from you guys, even from my side in the past months. And just knowing that you guys are part of, all of you guys are part of this, this course, I know is going to be a huge value to all of the passengers who are going to be part of this pilot with Ideo. So we're very happy. And why does it say judging panel? Because you will be creating a product or a service, and you will be having design reviews and receiving feedback. So that's the fun part, because without feedback, we can never better ourselves and better our work. And nothing would be truly colectivo if we didn't have an amazing, amazing lineup of practitioners. All of our practitioners are Latin American. It's the Latin American component of this ruta, or of this course. These are our practitioners who have had the highest NPS and have been with us for the most time. It's really an amazing lineup. And they will be the people who will be accompanying you day to day, making sure that the learning goes through and that you're really discussing and creating these products and services that are part of the course. So we're extremely excited, Sandy. It's been quite a journey, and we're very excited for things to come. And thank you for everyone who's also been signing in. I know that several of the practitioners have also signed up, and we're very excited for this.
I'm super excited too. I just want to say that there's so much need and opportunity across Latin America. And as the world goes digital, to be able to design those experiences with care and compassion and empathy for the people that are going to use them, I can only imagine the way that you'll help change the world. So
thank you.
I'll go on that journey.
Yes. And as everything in Colectivo, everything is a journey, because Colectivo is a bus and we go from A to B. Okay, well, thank you very much, Sandy and team, and everyone from Ideo and from our practitioners who have signed on. Of course, a very Colectivo way of signing off, and this is very important because it's the humanness of what we do and how we do things, is we will be sending you, like a encuesta. I can't get the word in English, but encuesta, so you can tell us how you like the event or not and how we can do it better. But we would like to take a picture. So please turn on your cameras, wave, you can fix your hair if you want. There's 428 of us now. I can see people who are popping off because maybe they don't want to be on the picture. If you don't want to turn on your camera, that's fine as well. But I think it's amazing when we can see ourselves. And I think it's amazing to remember, especially now that everything is digital and we're still working remotely, that we are still humans behind the screens. And when we pop on webinars and different sort of conversation aspects, there's a lot of us here. So Sandy, you can see a lot of people signing on. I see Dani. I know Dani. How are you? Dani Martinez, I'm talking to you. Yeah, hi. A lot of pasajeros and pasajeras who have been here lately. And anyway, this has been amazing, Sandy. Thank you so much. And it's been amazing to hear you from our Latin American side and really be inspired to get out of our comfort zone. I think that's one of the main things I take with me.
And thank you, Christina, for the invitation. And I wanted just a special shout out to the translators. I really appreciate the work that you're doing to help me be able to connect with everyone here. So very grateful for your work and your skills.
That's actually true. Like, huge applause to Daniela, Patricia, and Ale, who have been working nonstop this entire event. It's the first time we did something like this, and we always do things differently in Colectivo. So we wanted to make it human, but also inclusive and make sure that everyone could really enjoy. Okay, so Team Colectivo, are you gonna help me take the picture so we can wrap this up only 5 minutes late? Yes? Okay, I see Micaela's taking the pictures. All right, so we're gonna do 3, 2, 1, and we have to have really big smiles. And there's 6 things of us. So there's the awkward moment where there's really big smiles while people like go through the 6 moments. Keep smiling. Hi, Nathan. It's great to see you. Okay, let me know, Mika, when we're there. Keep smiling, beautiful people, says Cristian of Colectivo. Zoom should have a function where they can just like, you can screenshot one, right? And it's just the 6
totally
of them.
should. See, that's some design thinking right there.
There you go. Yeah, that's a user pain that they need to. Also, we really need subtitles in Spanish, like really need subtitles in Spanish, but hopefully soon. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you, Sandy, so much. I'll put Coldplay on again so people can listen to wonderful music that I like on their Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock in the evening. And thank you so much for the space. And we're extremely, extremely excited about this alliance and about this pilot that we're launching together. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, and all of you as well.
Great. Thanks, Christina. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.